We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
And welcome, this is King of Podcasts here with you with another Depraved and Debaucherous episode. And tonight on the program, we're going to go ahead and talk about an ongoing issue with those in their late teens and 20s, Generation Z. Let's go and talk about them. So the story is that their drinking habits are not the same as traditional folks like me and Generation X or millennials that are, the older sisters and brothers of them. It's changing up. And they're deciding, oh, well, we don't want to do the same thing as everyone else has done. Wow. So we have that to consider. We're going to talk about that here on the program tonight. And it's a concerning issue. So I bring this up tonight because of the fact that we look at where the younger people and wondering the issues they're having with dating and not trying to date so much. Not to mention the issues when it comes to going out and meeting other people and, the reasons that they're staying home a lot. They might game a lot. They might do other things where they'll meet people online and have a virtual relationship and just decide to talk to people from other countries, other parts of the world, instead of meeting out, going out and frolicking in person and having fun. And the reason why dating has gone so much of a struggle, has gotten to be so much of a struggle, is because the imbibing of libations, of spirits, if you will, that used to help people get into a mood to break the ice, to make people more comfortable, that's not being used anymore. So Generation Z, teens, late teens and 20s, not using alcohol, drinking less. Interesting. So here's what we have. And there's a couple of stories we're going to take from that bring the whole story to light. But now, the first place where I found it is it's happening in concerts. It's happening at the clubs. And it's also happening about, where travelers are going. And ditching the party scene. The idea is that drinking and partying always come hand in hand. I couldn't tell you of a club that, I remember seeing clubs when I was, growing up. Sometimes I'd go ahead and find myself at a teen night with no drinks, virgin drinks. And I'm saying to myself, okay, nobody's really dancing. Nobody's having a good time. The music's like whatever. So basically the idea is that it's like a prom dance with no drinking. But then the drinking would be later when you go to the hotel or you go to hang out, whatever, the beach and this and that. That was the old idea of it. But that's all changed now. Something happened. So that's what we're going to talk about here on the program. But first of all, I need to go and say this here on the program tonight as I begin. I'm so happy to say this, that I finally invested in a brand new chair for the studios. So the money I've made, a little bit of scratch I've made on this program, I put that towards a brand new chair so I can sit on in the studio and continue to crank out the hits of the King of Podcasts radio network, which of course includes the Wrestling Is Real podcast, the Broadcasters podcast, and this show right here, D&D, which, of course, you can find all the shows at kingofpodcasts.com and this show at ddradio.live. Now, back to the story. I've talked about the dating game. I've talked about how when one of the dating options that you go for when you go out is drinks. Now, listen. Of course, I could be saying this, and I know some people out there, my younger counterparts here on the program, listen to this program. The younger faction that listens to the program, I can look at my stats, and I can see I have a considerable amount of younger women and men that do listen in of various ages on this program itself. And I appreciate that greatly. And I also know that they're feeling a little bit indifferent about what they do. Like if I just look at my audience, I know I have a younger audience that actually regularly engages on this program. And so I have to be cognizant of that. But even to you like this. So my audience, for the most part, 62% of my audience under 34 years old, 18 to 34. So I'm basically falling into that demographic. And among those, 20% of 20 to 34, 12% of 23 to 27, and 11% of 18 to 22 are listening to what I'm saying here. It's very important. So I know I have a younger audience here, and it's important for me to go ahead and say that even though some people might think, well, if having alcohol, the inhibitions drop, and that some young men and women do not know what they're doing and are not responsible or going to hold themselves accountable for what they do when the inhibitions are going to drop. Yes. Have there been many times where men have probably gotten a girl where they were drunk, that maybe they'll get a chance to go ahead and have sex with them and they'll get consent? Sure. I'm not denying that. We are depraved and debaucherous after all. But what happens now is that if young men and women are not drinking, now, listen, I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. I mean, the fact that they're not getting behind the wheel or operating any heavy machinery, any vehicle of any kind, and they're going to stay sober, well, let's just be honest with each other. The depravity which leads to the debauchery is probably being done in other ways. Vaping, smoking. Maybe there's some other imbibing that's being done that we don't know about. Or it could be other products they're using. Could be syrup, like cough syrup. It could be narcotics, prescription drugs that they're not prescribed to them. It could be other things that are being used. So I'm not saying there's any drugs that are not going to be out there, but alcohol was something that, you could normally, you would know that those that are over 21 would probably get their hands on. And we also know that, listen, I remember going out to bars and clubs, and I remember taking other people to bars and clubs that were underage, and they were out drinking too, okay? Because that's, what happens. It used to happen a lot. But something happened here now. We're now at the point where what used to be the normal thing where everybody's kind of upset, right? Inflation, people are not making enough money, people that got rent that's sky high, and people can't do anything at all. Well, there used to be the thing where in times like these, economically, we would find ways to unwind and put the troubles of the day away and not think about it. Okay, like I remember going to college, going through the stress of going through exams and this and that. But I'll tell you what, you go on the weekends, Friday and Saturday night, go out, find a club that's got your wristbands for $10 all you could drink. That's what it was in my day. Cover was next to nothing. Ladies' night, and all the women would get free drinks, and that's how you'd get the girls to the clubs. But that's not what we're getting right now. Something's happening. It's changed. And I don't know what that's going to be, but that's something that I'm really concerned about. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, we have a lot of cannabis. I mean, there's a lot more beverages out there than ever. When it comes to whiskeys and bourbons and tequilas and all. And then you're talking about the cannabis-infused drinks, hemp CBD-flavored beverages, seltzers. Those also have alcohol in them. And now millennials would be more into the seltzers and the malted drinks, right? I remember the time when we still had Smirnoff Ice was really popular 10 years ago, right? Or Mike's Hard Lemonade. But those have kind of gone passé. So the kids are not doing that. And by the way, the venues of which these younger, later teens and 20s would go out, they're not drinking as much. And the concessions that are needed to make money on whatever is changing. Let me tell you this. Go to the movie theater. I don't see a lot of people buying from the bar. When concessions are coming in, I'm seeing younger men and women coming through to watch all the movies that are coming out, whether it's been Fast X, whether it's been Transformers Rise of the Beasts, whether it's been The Little Mermaid, and whether it's been, this weekend I got The Flash, right? Everybody has The Flash to watch this weekend. Well, not a lot of people go to the bar section at Regal Cinema to grab drinks. I'm doing it because I'm still on a diet. Because I know every time I get a shot or I get a drink in me, it's water weight that comes up and I see my scale go 4 or 5 pounds. I'm like, I don't want to do it right now. I will some point. Probably when football gets back together, I'll probably get back to taking green tea shots, but that's the other point. But drinking less. And drinking used to be cheap too. I mean, I remember, we used to get dollar drinks, $2 specials, mixed drinks, whatever. You like get some horrible house brand of whatever rum or vodka or whatever, and you're going at it, getting screwdrivers and Long Island iced teas and Cuba Libres, if you will. But something's changed here. And this is where, when I see people not getting together and hooking up and having a good time, fine if you don't want to get married. And the women, when we talk about the modern women on this program on a regular basis, right? And the change of why women are not going out and having anything get done, they're also not drinking as much. or they're going to places where the drinks are just too damn high. Okay, with some of the girls, they'll go out to a club, a strip club. Let me put it to you like this. That is a common thing. For some of the girls here, teens and 20s, will go to the strip clubs, to go to the clubs, because they want the barriers of entry, the barriers on the alcohol, barriers that the security is not going to let any guys do anything to them. It's like a safety, security, extra barrier on top of. I know that because when I do Uber driving and when I do it on the weekends at night, I know that a lot of girls will go out to the strip clubs and they'll be dropped off at these strip clubs. And remember, you would think that with everybody driving Uber and some people just not bothering to buy cars or buying insurance to get the cars, and they're just going to go around, skateboard it, grab a bike, grab an electric bike, grab a Segway, grab a skateboard, grab a scooter, whatever. You're seeing a lot of more people that are not wanting to go and drive cars anyway or afford to buy cars. So when you have Ubers out there, I mean, there's plenty of places to go get alcohol. You want to get drunk and then go grab an Uber home? You can do that. But not so much. And this is what's really interesting. So the way that Gen Z likes to party, I'm starting to not understand. I heard a story on TikTok about a girl talking about how the music at the clubs, when you go to a club, whatever there is, I mean, unless it's a dance club, but like go to like a regular club that's like, you'd have some rap music, you have some R&B, you'd have some hip hop, whatever, and it will be different. Like a Spanish club, it's always going to be kind of traditional. You're going to have reggae, you're going to have dembow. If they're smart about it, they're going to probably play the original Mexican, right? So like now you go to a club, you will either, Latinos don't have the problem. Latinas don't have the problem, right? You go to the clubs, it's a reggaeton club, they're playing Bad Bunny, they're playing Anuel AA. You're going to dembow clubs, you're playing El Alfa and Roche RD, right? If you're going to the Mexican places, the line dancing, they're playing Peso Pluma and Grupo Frontera, right? They're doing all the fun, right? The clubs where it's very much more an urban black crowd, like the music is like, okay, we're listening to Lil Durk and Young Boy Never Broke Again and, Drake. Are those boppers? Are you really like kind of dancing to them? Like sometimes you'd have like a build up to an anthem. I remember the last time I went out to clubs where it was like in the 2010s and, it was different. I was like, you could still go to the clubs and you'd still have some fun out there. And I mean, I remember going out to the clubs myself. We used to have for rap music, we used to have like the booty music back in the day, the Two Live Crew, the Black Pack, we had a different feel to it. But for whatever reason, the dancing, the partying, the drinking, it's just not as much anymore. So clubs and concerts and traveling are all being affected by the lack of drinking by Gen Z. That's the story. So we're going to get into some of these stories right now and talk about it. So first story that caught my attention was the takeout. Gen Z's drinking habits are killing concerts. Billboard recently wrote, and we're going to talk about this story, that Gen Z isn't buying enough alcohol at concerts and music venues are suffering because of it. Millennials celebrate the fact that for once, we're not the generation being accused of killing an industry. Now, Gen Z does drink. We've learned that part. Okay, how about we talked about the Borg? Remember we talked about that a few months ago? A plastic gallon jug filled with vodka, water, and electric light packets optimized for partying all night long. But that's really a college thing. It's not something you see out there a lot of people doing. I don't really see that much of that going on. Getting milk jugs and just filling it up with everything. No, I don't think so much. It might be hard to imagine why they wouldn't want to get a little loose at a concert. But there are two sides to drinking habits for Gen Z. Now, we're going to take from Billboard because they talk more about this anyway. So a concert venue in Minneapolis and Dana Frank, who's president and CEO of First Avenue Productions, they're saying that Gen Zers are simply just not drinking the same amount. One of the big trends we're seeing is that they don't drink as much. They're either eating edibles before they come or they're more of a sober mental health. Most of the ticket price goes to the band, so what really venues subsist on is beverages. That's not going to be a sustainable revenue stream. Right, they're giving edibles. Giving some gummies or giving some, cookies or whatever, something like that, and that's more of a different, a high instead of a drunk. Because cannabis is not legal in a particular way for the venues to have these things, then they're having something else that the concerts can't have. So the alcohol is not doing the job for them. The change of behavior appears noticeable at smaller venues. So Gen Z has an embracing of healthier habits, but we have to be creative about making money on the other. Alcohol consumption actually has been declining in adolescents and young adults for the past decade and a half, maybe even 2 decades. And this is according to a psychology department professor at Texas State, Ty Shepis. He co-authored a 2020 study that said that college students from ages 18 to 22 abstained from alcohol, increased from 20 to 28% between 2002 and 2018. And rates of alcohol abuse were nearly cut in half in the same period. So, yeah, I guess the alcohol is not as good for you, and now it's changing. Same thing with tobacco. Gen Z's not doing so much tobacco. They're vaping or, doing kava or doing hookah. Different story. And the amount of drink when they do drink tends to be lower than it was in older generations. It's obvious in Gen Z, but it's a continuation of a trend. And the study also showed that marijuana, now legal for recreation in 20 U.S. states, increased among college students. And while drinking has had a positive health impact, it has a potential challenge for some venues. Bar sales are important for every music venue, but especially for smaller ones since there aren't as many revenue sources compared to the large arenas. So what do? I guess you sell more food? I don't know. But is the high they're getting off the edibles, off the vapes, off of whatever, is it really making much of a difference? They're still staying quite lucid and sober. It's just loosening them up, but it's not really getting them loose. And the revenue stream drives up with some concerts. Venue costs are starting to go up. See, because they're not spending money on the liquor, now the prices on the concert tickets are going so damn high, rocket high. They're talking about one venue owner saying her venue costs have risen up by 30%. It's more important than ever for venues to find the other revenue streams that might be healthier for our guests. Supplemental income could come through getting a solid private events program going on at times that your venue is not being utilized, venue merch, stocking various sparkling waters and kombucha to entice guests that aren't necessarily wanting to have a bunch of alcohol, I guess. And there's also new programs they're talking about now, maybe doing mocktails, maybe CBD-based drinks as a possible way to make money for music fans who are more interested in cannabis than booze. But if a trend goes further, it could put more financial pressure on small venues. So if you want to go to concerts, the Gen Z folks are having a problem. And that's not good. Next, how about the habits when it comes to, well, we said bars. Same thing goes. Now, Kantar, a data analytics company, found out that 21% of Gen Z had purchased non-alcoholic beer in the last 12 months. And they're not just cutting back on alcohol at venues for budgetary reasons. The decline is an ongoing trend that has reached other businesses as well. To pricing. Drink prices at concerts, music festivals, and other live events are pretty insane. And so you can't blame the younger generation for skipping out. Pre-gaming the event with more affordable drinks is just smarter budgeting. So interesting. So you got that going on. The concerts are getting hurt by this. And the clubs are getting hurt by it. Now, how about traveling? Here's another part that's going on that's very interesting. There's a study that came from the Flight Center Travel Group. 4,000 young students from around the world. 87% indicated that vocational travel, such as working holidays and study abroad, is important for their career. 78% indicate a desire to enjoy new experiences. So this is what they're doing if they're going to travel abroad. Are they partying or not? Well, the biggest appeals now for young travelers are sightseeing, 70%, experiencing new cultures, 68%, trying new cuisines, 59%, exploring nature, 58%, meeting new people, 37%. And for the most part, Gen Z aren't interested in traveling for nightlife and clubbing, with 21% claiming an interest while on vacation. How about that? They don't care about partying. How about that? Now, Student Universe, their brand manager, Will Jones, says it wasn't too long ago the 18 to 30s travel market was practically synonymous with raucous partying, gleeful disregard for inhibition, and a seemingly inexhaustible ambition to experience the world's worst hangover. Yes, foam parties, spring break. What happened? Now, I don't expect all the younger kids to be into it, but what was wrong with that? Are they just less fun? Or are they just more conscious about it? I mean, do they feel like we're being stupid? Sure, we were being stupid when we went out. We went out and did foolish things when we were young. We were frivolous. Of course we were. We were, irresponsible a little bit. We didn't behave all the time. I don't know, something happened. But they're more worried about other things. They're also, like Gen Z, so your later teens and 20s, more concerned about things going on around them. That all the things that are going on, that they feel like there's things that they can't go out and do things because they feel like it's like the end of the world. Okay, let's talk about it. Gen Z showed the highest propensity to travel as pandemic restrictions loosened. Estimated income over $400 billion is a demographic the travel industry shouldn't sleep on. But being budget conscious, student and youth travelers spend 3 times more on a trip than the average international traveler. And 76% indicated financial costs were their greatest concern about traveling. Only 8% indicated they would stop traveling altogether due to finances. Gen Z believes that they will aim to find the cheapest option, and almost half indicated they would expect to get assistance from a parent or guardian. Yeah, they don't want to pay out for it themselves. Mom and Dad, can you help us pay for this trip? How about this? The climate crisis is an issue for them. Being a highly environmentally conscious generation, most young travelers are not letting climate change limit their travel plans. Nearly half say that global warming has little or no impact on their desire to travel. And just 23% say they would be likely to be paid to offset their carbon emissions when booking travel. When it comes to worrying the most demographic about traveling, 15% cited their impact on the environment, ranking at its lowest concern. The biggest was cost. Cost too damn much. Well, they're right about that. Now, there also a report says that Gen Z view travel as a fast track to successful work. 87% saying that overseas experiences will improve their career prospects. A further 78% claim a desire to partake in vocational travel, and that backs the trend of a shift away from hedonistic, party-oriented vacations to more purpose-driven, immersive experiences that continue to deliver benefits long after they're finished. They want to be a more responsible, more mature generation. So, late teens and 20s, immaturity is no longer cool. That's what we're saying. Immaturity is just not acceptable. You just can't be a, dumb jock or dumb cheerleader out there partying out. It's looked down upon. Here's the other part. If they want to travel, you have to remember that in a lot of young teens and 20s, the Gen Z, there are quite a few that definitely are, they definitely identify with pronouns as LGBTQ+. Homosexuality is still criminalized in 68 countries, more than a third of the world's total. And the vast majority of Gen Z say their willingness to visit a country would be impacted by its law and its attitudes on issues like LGBTQ+ rights. And also insights on student mobility, where students want to go, perspectives on traveling for education, and others were made in this study. So it's interesting about that. It's a whole change. Whole dynamics happening here. What happened here? Why are we at this point? I mean, it's actually quite interesting to see that happen. So, I don't know what you do. But I wish I understood. And, I wish I could go and do my own survey and just understand. I don't want to put the crew down here, okay? I don't want to criticize all those out there why they're deciding they're going to do what they're doing. I don't want to think that way. I want to give the chance to see if something can happen with this. But that's something I'm really concerned about. And I worry about the younger folks. Late teens and 20s. If they're not partying, having a good life, like they should be having the time of their life. But everything's kind of just gone different. They don't want to get married. They don't want to go in and have relationships and love. Some don't even care about that. But there's something wrong if you don't have that. At least try for it. It's okay to go ahead and run a little bit of muck and have some fun and get loose. Enjoy yourself. You're young. You're full of life. Enjoy yourself. So partying and alcohol doesn't count anymore? It's too immature? It's too beneath them? Look, I got no problem if you want to have kombucha and you want to have seltzers and you want to have, mocktails, okay? But what, nothing? And for those, are there still some that are going out after all, or are they just changing their mind? I don't know. But it does concern me. I'm going to leave that there. Maybe there's more to it. But I got a few more stories I'm going to bring up before we wrap things up. So let me get into a couple things here that I also saw that in the dating area that I thought would be interesting. Singles are trying to game dating app algorithms with elaborate tactics. which is a huge waste of time. Insider.com talks about that singles often talk about trying to optimize their dating profiles to find more or better matches. And if you want to enjoy dating, singles must do difficult yet rewarding self-work. So there's a story in here where the young lady here, Julia Naftalin, writes about her best friend, her newly single friend, had a plan for forcing the algorithm on Hinge to give her better matches. And she wanted to support her friend in the efforts, but her strategy required an unnecessary amount of mental gymnastics, especially for someone I knew to be audacious and unbothered. So she wanted to, first of all, let's see, they're saying that in here, I'm trying to write the part, hold on, where's the part where she actually talks about what she did? Julie, what did you do here? Did you actually put, I wish she actually explained what this was. Hold on, did she say something? I gotta look in here, but she doesn't say what they are. I wish she would have told me what it was, but this is actually something that's interesting. So, changing your profile just to get more clicks. So are we taking away the whole 6 foot tall, 6-figure income kind of thing just to get more choices to reject? I mean, there's one thing I've always done where, like, if I go ahead and do algorithm, if I worried about the algorithm, I mean, whatever. But these days, if you want to go ahead and look for anybody on a dating profile, you're going to be limited to find anyone close to you. You have to open up to like other states or basically around the country. And maybe even assume actually doing some traveling if you want to do as a result too. But who knows? So here's what she did. She did, there was one part she says. She would delete her existing account, make a brand new one, and reject every match she received for 24 hours. Does that work? I don't know if that would work to me, but sounds crazy to me. Okay. How about another story? Gophering is the new ghosting. So this is a new thing we're learning about. This is from Pure Wow. And a show called The Casper Show brought this story up. And they said, quote, I matched with a guy who was cute enough, and we've been small talking on the app for a few days. This morning I opened up the conversation to see his digits. He sent his digits and says, text me so we can set up a date. When she typed in the number an hour later, he unmatched me and the conversation disappeared. Why would someone do that? And she had to acknowledge, dangling your number as like a carrot stick is strange. I talked them into being a weirdo, on to the next. But then she got a similar call from her friend Jake. The weirdest thing happened to me on Bumble. And he went on to explain, I matched with this girl. We talked for a week. I asked her to grab dinner. She agreed, but when I followed up with a time and restaurant, she immediately unmatched me. What was the point of that? So there's a pattern here. Not quite ghosting. It's not a curve, which would be the person would have to communicate that they're rejecting your advances. But now they're saying it's more called gophering. The precept whereby after you match with someone on a dating app and put time and effort, the potential suitor jumps ship at the prospect of taking things in real life. The person sucks up your witty banter, flirtatious one-liners, much like Punxsutawney film Soaking Up the Sun, only to disappear at the first sign of contact. I don't think that's anything new. I've had that happen a bunch of times, as a matter of fact, on dating sites. Which is why I always got tired of the whole thing of like, well, tell me about yourself. You don't care about what I'm all about. You don't. That's what I tell some girls. And I just felt like, well, I'm not going anywhere by doing this or having that all be said. So I don't know. But, hey, whatever. Dating, instead of going out and going to the clubs or going to the concerts and meeting people, and maybe you're a little bit drunk, but again, it's like the dating game. You get yourself loosened up, able to talk, and then maybe something happens out of it, right? And I hope some of my younger compadres here on this program will understand where I'm coming from on this, and will take what I'm saying here to a point that maybe I'm not completely wrong about this. Maybe there's a chance for all of you to go out there and, maybe enjoy yourself. Maybe grab a beer. Maybe you don't have to go and go after like some, major drink. You don't have to go after, a mixed drink or a big cocktail. You don't have to go get a Bloody Mary. You don't have to go get a pink lemonade. You don't have to do anything like that, but maybe it helps to get a little bit of drinking in you. Maybe, I'll tell you what the trick I used to do. Yeah, pre-game drinking, but then you also buy a drink at the bar. Just buy a beer, guys. Just buy a beer, buy a drink, and hold on to it. And just sit and nurse it. And maybe you'll hook up with a guy or a girl. And maybe that night you'll get to be a little depraved and debaucherous.